You know, I've talked to many older folks who quietly admit something's changed. They don't feel as steady on their feet anymore, or their joints just don't bounce back like they used to. If that sounds familiar, don't worry. There are gentle, natural ways to support your body, and they start on your plate. Let me begin with something that might surprise you, but in a good way. One of the simplest, most humble vegetables you can bring back into your kitchen is cabbage. Yes, cabbage. But before I share why, let's talk about what's really happening inside your body. As we get older, our body naturally produces less collagen. Now, collagen is a kind of protein. It's the scaffolding that helps hold your joints together and cushions them when you move. Think of it like the padding in your favorite armchair. When it's full, everything feels soft and smooth. But when it thins out, you start to feel the hard edges underneath. That's what happens in your knees, hips, and even your ankles when collagen starts to fade. For many older adults, this means walking becomes harder. Standing up from a chair might feel like lifting a heavy box. You may even feel stiff or sore in your joints in the morning or after a short walk. And when that stiffness settles in, it's easy to pull back, to move less, rest more, and little by little, lose some of the independence and ease that once came naturally. That's why it matters to support your collagen from the inside. And cabbage, of all things, plays a quiet but powerful role in helping your body do just that. I remember one of my favorite patients, Evelyn, 73, from a small town in Pennsylvania. She used to be a school teacher, always full of energy, always on her feet. But one day during her appointment, she admitted, almost in a whisper, that her knees were holding her back. "I stopped walking to the library," she said. "It's only 2 blocks, but the pain just makes it feel 10 times longer." Her story stayed with me because I could tell it wasn't just the knees, it was the fear that this was the new normal. We did some basic evaluations and there was nothing alarming, but it was clear her joints weren't getting the same support they once did. Her collagen levels, like in most people her age, had likely dropped over time. Evelyn wasn't ready to go on supplements, and she didn't like complicated diets. So we talked food, real comforting food. I asked her, "Do you like cabbage?" Her eyes lit up. "I used to make it all the time." We started there. I encouraged her to bring it back, sautéed, stewed, or even raw in simple slaws. After a few weeks, she came back smiling. "I don't know if it's just the cabbage or the fact that I'm cooking again," she laughed, "but I made it to the library and back without stopping." Another client of mine, Harold, 76, from Oregon, had a similar experience. A former gardener, he missed being outside, but his hips would ache after just an hour of work. Once we added cabbage and a few other foods to his weekly meals, along with some stretching, he noticed a real change, not dramatic, but meaningful. "I just feel more comfortable in my own body," he said. "It's not magic, it's consistency." And cabbage, as simple as it seems, carries vitamin C, sulfur compounds, and antioxidants, all of which help your body maintain and rebuild its natural collagen. It's like feeding the soil so the roots stay strong. What often helps in these cases is gently reintroducing cabbage into your routine 2 to 3 times a week. It could be a warm cabbage stew with olive oil, a side of roasted red cabbage with garlic, or a fresh slaw with a light vinaigrette. These small, manageable meals support the body's natural collagen production without making you feel like you're on a diet. You don't need to turn your whole kitchen upside down. Just start with 1 meal this week. 1 serving. That's all it takes to begin. Cabbage may not seem glamorous, but it has heart. It works quietly, steadily, just like you've done all your life. And every forkful is a way of saying to your body, "I'm still here, I still care." Because even the smallest act of care can help you take stronger, steadier steps tomorrow. Here's another vegetable that's worth a closer look: carrots. Not just for your eyes, as folks often say, but for the quiet strength they can bring to your joints. As you age, the soft tissues in your legs, especially around your knees and ankles, don't repair as easily. That's because your body's collagen supply is decreasing, and with it, the ability to keep your cartilage thick and strong. When cartilage wears thin, bones start to rub more directly against one another. That's where you might feel sharp, aches when climbing stairs, or stiffness when you get out of bed. The support system that used to absorb shock for your joints becomes more fragile. It's not just about pain. It's about mobility, safety, and staying active in everyday life. Carrots, rich in beta-carotene and vitamin A, do something special. They help slow the breakdown of collagen by reducing oxidative stress in the tissues. That means less wear and tear inside your joints, and more of that soft cushion your bones depend on. It's a gentle way to nourish the parts of your body that keep you upright and moving. Back when I was working at a community health clinic in Ohio, I met Jerome, 70, who came in because he was starting to dread mornings. I sit on the edge of the bed and wait for my knees to cooperate, he told me. It takes a while before I can trust my legs to carry me to the bathroom. His story was familiar. We ran a few tests, ruled out anything acute, and talked about daily habits. He wasn't interested in pain meds, and his insurance didn't cover physical therapy. But when I asked about his diet, he said something that struck me. I used to grow carrots when I was a kid. Loved pulling them out of the dirt. I suggested bringing them back, roasted, pureed, or shredded into a warm salad, something simple and familiar. He agreed to try. A few weeks later, Jerome returned and said, I didn't expect much, but I've been having carrots 3 or 4 times a week, and I'm getting out of bed a little easier. Not perfect, but better. That kind of shift matters. I saw something similar with Elaine, 68, from North Carolina. She'd been struggling with pain in her ankles, especially after gardening. I encouraged her to make a basic carrot soup once or twice a week, blended, soft, comforting. She liked it so much she added it to her regular meal plan. Within a month, she was back tending to her roses. My ankles still talk to me, she joked, but at least now I can answer back. These are small, manageable changes that don't require fancy ingredients or big lifestyle overhauls. And yet, they support the body's ability to repair and rebuild from the inside out. One of the easiest ways to include carrots is to roast them in the oven with a touch of olive oil and herbs. They're naturally sweet and easy to digest. You can also blend them into soups, mash them like potatoes, or even enjoy them raw with a spoonful of hummus. Try adding them to your meals 3 times a week, just enough to build a quiet rhythm. Don't think of it as a diet. Think of it as a gentle, thoughtful gesture, one your joints will recognize over time. Even the smallest root can bring deep nourishment. Carrots are like that, unassuming, steady, and full of quiet strength. And just like you, they're resilient. If you felt like your legs are slowing down, know that you're not alone, and that even a spoonful of something orange and familiar can be a step toward ease. Let's talk about another quiet helper for your joints: tomatoes. You've probably enjoyed them in salads or sauces for years, but did you know they can actually protect the collagen in your body? Especially after 60, our joints become more sensitive to inflammation. That means swelling, stiffness, or that warm, throbbing feeling you sometimes get around your knees or ankles. These aren't just normal signs of aging. They're signals that your body is trying to fight something it doesn't like. When joints are inflamed, your body breaks down collagen faster than it can rebuild it. That means cartilage wears away, the fluid around your joints dries up, and you feel more friction with every step. It's not just uncomfortable, it limits your ability to do the things you love, and it can lead to a cycle where moving becomes harder, so you move less and the stiffness only gets worse. Tomatoes contain a powerful antioxidant called lycopene. It doesn't just protect your cells, it also helps calm inflammation, which gives collagen a better chance to do its job. When you reduce that internal irritation, your joints stay more flexible, and the soft tissues can begin to heal and strengthen over time. I remember working with a woman named Dolores, 74, from Phoenix. She told me during our first appointment, "My knees feel like they're boiling by evening." She wasn't exaggerating. Every night she had to wrap them in ice packs just to fall asleep. I asked her about her meals, and she mentioned she mostly ate processed food, microwavable, fast, and not very fresh. We didn't make big changes. That's not always realistic, but I suggested starting small, a tomato soup twice a week, or even just sliced tomatoes on whole grain toast for breakfast. Dolores loved the idea. "Feels like something my grandmother would make," she said. Within a few weeks, she noticed her knees weren't as hot at night. The swelling went down. She still needed the occasional ice pack, but not every night. "It feels like my body isn't fighting itself so much," she told me with relief. And there was George, 71, a retired postman from New York. Years of walking had worn down his hip joints, and he was facing a possible surgery. We talked about giving his body some time, about offering it what it needed to reduce internal stress. He began cooking with tomatoes, adding them to his stews, chili, and pasta dishes. A month later, his mobility hadn't magically returned, but the sharp pain had eased. He told me, "It's like the volume on the discomfort's been turned down. When inflammation calms down, your body isn't working against itself. And when your joints get a break from that internal fire, collagen has a chance to hold things together longer." A simple way to start is by including cooked tomatoes in your meals 2 or 3 times a week. Cooked tomatoes, especially in soups, stews, or lightly sautéed, release more lycopene than raw ones. You can try a tomato-based vegetable soup, mix them into brown rice, or enjoy a slice of baked tomato with herbs and olive oil. Keep it simple. Keep it doable. It's not about strict diets. It's about giving your body small, steady tools to repair and protect itself, gently, gradually, naturally. Tomatoes are like warmth in a bowl. They comfort, soothe, and quietly rebuild. They don't shout for attention, but they bring your body back into balance. And that's something worth savoring. You don't have to change everything overnight. Even a spoonful of warm soup can remind your body that healing is still possible, one bite at a time. Let's take a moment for an underrated kitchen staple that does more for your joints than most people realize: onions. Not just a flavor base. For soups or stews, onions are rich in natural compounds like sulfur and quercetin, which quietly support your body's collagen production and tissue repair. As we age, it's not just about how much collagen we make, it's also about how well our body holds on to it, especially in areas like the hips, knees, and spine. You might have noticed it yourself. Movements that used to feel natural, like bending down to tie your shoes or stepping sideways off a curb, now feel stiff or unstable. That's partly because the connective tissue around your joints loses its flexibility. Without enough collagen and without support from anti-inflammatory compounds, those tissues dry out, become more brittle, and lose their strength. The result? Discomfort, fatigue, and in some cases, reduced balance or increased risk of falls. Onions offer your body gentle help where it matters. Sulfur is crucial for forming and stabilizing collagen molecules. Without it, the structure breaks down faster. Quercetin helps reduce chronic inflammation, especially the kind that creeps in slowly and quietly over time. Together, they give your joints and connective tissue a better environment to repair, replenish, and stay flexible. A few years back, I met a man named Carl, 69, from Missouri. He'd always been proud of keeping up with his grandkids, whether it was walking around the park or building small projects in his garage. But recently, he felt like his hips were locking up more often. "It's like there's a block in there that won't budge," he said during our session. He wasn't in pain all the time, but the stiffness was interfering with his favorite routines. Carl wasn't the type to take supplements, and he was skeptical about dietary changes. "What's a vegetable gonna do for my hips?" he joked. But he loved to cook, and that's where we found our starting point. I told him about onions, how their natural sulfur helps support the exact connective tissues he was struggling with. He laughed. "Well, I've got a whole sack of them in the pantry." He started small, sautéing onions into his scrambled eggs, adding caramelized onions to his sandwiches, stirring them into lentils and stews. Over the next 2 months, he reported not just feeling more flexible, but also more hopeful. "It's like the lock got a little oil," he said, describing how his hips started to loosen up. Then there was Margaret, 72, from South Carolina. She'd been dealing with aching knees for years and felt nervous climbing stairs. We talked about adding anti-inflammatory foods to her diet, and onions came up. She started making roasted vegetable trays, zucchini, carrots, onions, all tossed in olive oil. "I didn't expect much," she told me later, "but I swear my knees don't creak like they used to." Their stories remind me that even the smallest ingredient, when used with care, can add up to real change. Onions might not fix everything, but they support the body's quiet efforts to heal, and that's worth leaning into. What often works well is including onions in your meals, at least 3 times a week. They don't have to be raw. Cooked onions still carry the benefits. Try adding them to soups, omelets, rice dishes, or even roasting them with a bit of olive oil and rosemary. It's an easy shift that doesn't feel like a burden, and it adds both flavor and function to your plate. You're not chasing perfection. You're building resilience, one recipe at a time, at your own pace. Onions are like old friends in the kitchen, humble, reliable, and always bringing something valuable to the table. They don't just feed the body, they remind it to stay supple, supported, and grounded. If your steps have felt a little unsure lately, let this small change be your quiet anchor, keeping you steady from the inside out. Now let's turn to one of the gentlest, most overlooked vegetables when it comes to joint support: green peas. They're small, they're soft, and they're often thought of as a side dish. But don't let their size fool you. Green peas are rich in vitamin C, zinc, and essential amino acids, nutrients your body uses to build and protect collagen. And for older adults, especially those feeling stiffness in the knees or hips, they offer an easy, nourishing way to support those areas without overloading the system. Here's why that matters. As collagen breaks down with age, the cartilage between your bones becomes thinner. That's the cushion your joints rely on to absorb shock and allow smooth movement. Without it, bones rub more, inflammation increases, and movements that were once automatic start to feel strained or even risky. This is especially noticeable when walking on uneven ground, standing up after sitting, or bending at the knees. Green peas provide gentle, digestible support. They also contain antioxidants and plant-based protein, which help reduce tissue damage and promote healing. That's a big deal for anyone trying to stay active later in life, because it's not just about moving, it's about feeling confident when you do. Let me tell you about someone I worked with recently, James, 66, from Colorado Springs. He's a retired postal worker who still liked to take long walks every morning, but over time he started feeling hesitant on hills and trails. "It's not the distance that bothers me," he told me. "It's the uncertainty in my knees. I'm always wondering, will they hold up today?" He didn't want to stop walking. It was his quiet time, his way to stay connected to the world around him. So we looked at ways to support his joint function naturally, and green peas came up. "I haven't eaten those since my daughter was little," he laughed, but he agreed to try adding them back in. I suggested simple options, tossing them into brown rice, blending them into soup, or just heating them with garlic and olive oil. After a few weeks, James reported a change, not a miracle, but something meaningful. "I don't brace myself. Has much when I step down from the curb," he said. "That's no small thing. It's the kind of difference that gives you back a bit of your rhythm." And then there was Linda, 70, from Milwaukee. She was struggling with soreness in her ankles after doing chores around the house. "I just feel wobbly sometimes," she said. We talked through her meals, and she realized most of her diet lacked steady protein and minerals. Green peas became a gentle solution, something she could prepare quickly without too much fuss. She started adding them to scrambled eggs, soups, and even mashed them with a little mint for toast. Linda's confidence improved, along with her balance. "I still move slow," she told me, "but I don't feel like I'm falling apart." That's a victory worth holding on to. One of the easiest ways to start is by keeping a small bag of frozen green peas on hand. You can steam them with herbs, blend them into a warm soup, or add them to any simple meal. They're soft, easy to chew, and incredibly versatile. Try to enjoy them 2 or 3 times a week. No big effort, just a calm, caring habit. What matters most is consistency. These little green bites quietly support the scaffolding of your body from the inside. Green peas may be tiny, but they carry quiet power. They remind us that healing doesn't have to be loud or dramatic. It can be soft, steady, and slow. Each small change in your meals is a gentle way of saying, "I'm still investing in myself." And that's something to feel proud of. If any part of this video felt helpful to you, I'd love to hear about it in the comments. Which vegetable will you try first? Don't forget to subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a gentle step toward better health. You're not alone. You're stronger than you think, and life still walks beside you.